Everyone. So we're going to be talking about Codebeamer. So Codebeamer is essentially a solution that will tackle a few different problems within the ALM space. So most importantly, things like requirements management, if we're talking about user, system, maybe test requirements, we have that risk management aspect, as well as things like software development, branching, variants, and things like that. Okay, so some of the common challenges that we face are the ability to collaborate. Okay, so poor collaboration often leads to basically a difference in information or ability to work on, say, the latest or most up-to-date information. This sort of siloed approach creates a disconnect between different groups and results in maybe a lack of responsiveness to any sort of design changes and impacts that potentially occur throughout that life cycle. Okay, we also have a lack of traceability. Okay, so especially with requirements analysis, we're doing multiple traceability reports, and we want to understand that waterfall sort of cascading effect between where a requirement initially comes from, maybe from a user, and how it ends up or how it's validated. So without that, we're not able to have that one-to-one sort of closed loop system and ensure that we're actually conducting our requirements analysis correctly. Another sort of challenge is the ability to reuse information. Okay, so coming back to maybe a siloed approach or having information stored in different repositories, whether we're talking about standalone applications, other tools for requirements management, or your PLM tool from your CAD perspective. Okay, so this inability to reuse information or trace back causes us to essentially miss out on a way of closing that loop, having the full digital thread, and making sure that we're leveraging existing information regardless of where it is, and speeding up our time to market. Another big thing is lack of integration. Okay, so the ability to plug into external systems, whether we're pulling in, importing information, or distributing it. Things like software development has a variety of different tools where people can be essentially iterating and refining their work, and how can we essentially pull that information into the likes of Codebeamer. A big factor, especially in some of these industries, such as aerospace and defense and medical devices, we have regulatory compliance. Okay, so an inability to comply with a given process or standard may mean that we fail certain audits, or we're not complying with our specific product we're intending to create, manufacture, and then distribute. Okay, so things like e-signatures to see who's accepted it are all important factors. The other limitation is the infrastructure as a whole. Okay, so high workload on IT in terms of rolling out and scaling these products, as well as an inability to essentially configure and plug into different tools. And how does Codebeamer sort of address these? So the first thing is, I guess, collaboration. Collaboration is big within Codebeamer across multiple individuals and groups. We're also talking about having repositories of information, whether it's the overarching projects or wiki spaces, which document and outline the processes that we're essentially trying to tackle, or some of the processes that outline our organization's specific best practice. Okay, traceability, so the granular traceability aspect where we can really get down into each requirement, whether it's a different document domain. In Codebeamer, we use the idea of trackers and how we can essentially perform reports, we can look at the relationships, and we can effectively scale that out or distribute that information. The ability to make use of libraries or information from one project to another. Okay, so we don't want to spend time manually inputting information over and over. A big part of reuse is to not only standardize on information, but allow people to effectively reuse stuff that they've already done in the past. So speeding up that time to market. Codebeamer also adopts a wide variety of integrations, everything from your Office suite to RecIF, data exchanges, and a bunch of other plugins, which I'll show in a future slide. A big factor of Codebeamer is also the regulatory compliance. Okay, so Codebeamer can ship with some predefined templates based on a specific industry. And what this allows you to do is have a pre-configured system that users can essentially jump in and start using straight away. It incorporates things like e-signatures, reviews, and out-of-the-box workflows. And probably the last thing is the architecture. So Codebeamer, when we're deploying these sort of systems, we want to have the ability to start small and rapidly grow, which it does support, being a web-based application. We also have the options of both SaaS and on-prem. Okay, so to give you an idea of the Codebeamer landscape, we have hopefully a few familiar applications that you can see. So Codebeamer technology will plug into a variety of these, some of which I'll show today, but really we can do everything from our regular document exports through Office over to overall software development, whether we're plugging into a Git or Git variant repositories. We're doing push and pull commands to then propagate new changes and iterations, and essentially performing software builds directly in Jenkins and pushing that out to maybe the source content in Windchill. Okay. Codebeamer as a whole, being an ALM system, is sort of minimizing the gap between both ALM and PLM. So rather than being standalone systems, and people may use one or the other, the idea is that we want to integrate the two together to have the initial user requirements dictate not only the testing aspect, but also the design. Okay, so I'll show you how we can integrate both Codebeamer and Windchill together to perform that end-to-end traceability and basically close out some of these initial requirements. And lastly, before I jump into the demonstration, this is just to show you some of the out-of-the-box templates. Okay, so everything from automotive to aerospace and defense. We have the medical engineering side of things. Okay, so quite a few MedDev and Gantt vibe templates, as well as your standard sort of agile waterfall hybrid templates. Okay, so these will dictate or be specific to a given industry and allow you to hit the ground running.